Alright, so here are the results. In general, the low end of Chain Gun is better than VIPER at any range, but that's where those red bars come in. So the red bars on the Chain Gun graph does not represent the time to kill at that range, it represents the time to kill variance. Because Chain Gun doesn't really have much damage fall off. At 100 meters, it loses a tiny amount of damage. You can tell the hits that I was getting, it was like 10.3k as opposed to 10.4. So the numbers were incredibly similar. But the variance comes from just your general dumb luck in terms of double damage chances. And that's what makes double damage chance weapons really terrible to work with. So the red bars simply show the lowest kill time that I got versus the highest kill time that I got between all ranges. Some of them were pretty close, some of them were not pretty close. The variance on Eclipse is rather large, but that's to be expected. I think the double damage chance is like 30% or something like that. You'd expect about a quarter of the full bar to be red variance. So this isn't like perfect in terms of chain gun, it's more of a baseline. Versus Lacewing, Chain Gun did a bit better. You can tell even the highest point of the red bar is still shorter than the point blank time from VIPER. But that's not to say you couldn't get super unlucky. But that does bring us to the negative numbers on the VIPER side in terms of Lacewing and Eclipse. I'm not fully certain where those come from. So the reason that they're there, just explain, is that the kill time from 60 and 100 meters was especially 60 meters on Eclipse. It was a full second lower at 60 meters than it was at 5 or 30. And I don't claim to be perfectly aware of where that comes from, but my theory is that the distance from the target does actually play a role because of projectile speeds. So the regular projectiles from VIPER, they travel much faster than the rockets do. The rockets travel much slower. So if you were at a distance where your regular shot and your rockets hit at the exact same time, then you would technically lose some damage, especially if all of that is going into one single layer. My guess is I got super lucky. The last shot on the perimeter multi-layer, I took it down, and then the rockets immediately came in afterward. Whereas the other times, the rocket ended up getting absorbed by the shield, and then I had to wait for another rocket cycle, which probably takes about a second. So that's kind of my only theory. But regardless, there are a few other things I do want to point out in terms of the weapons, the nuances to them. Obviously, the damage comparison test, as many people are happy to point out, is not a perfect simulation of real battle, so you still have to use your brain, you still have to entertain the nuances between the weapons. If this is not, just because one kills faster than the other does not mean it's definitively better, it just means that it kills faster than the other one. One thing to keep in mind is that Chain Gun has a significantly longer reload time, and the spin up from Chain Gun, especially if you don't have the spin up implant, can be rather brutal. Although VIPER does technically also have a bit of a damage delay in the form of the rockets. To me, the main difference is the reload time. Chain Gun's reload time is just like, it's way too long. VIPER's is much shorter, so you can use it to brawl a bit better. Chain Gun has much better effective range, but I don't think that's really a necessary commodity when it comes to weapons like this. So it's rather wasted. But there can be an argument made for each weapon, and justifiably so. They each have their own pros and cons, they each have their own ideal situations. Myself personally, I would go with VIPER, and just to contrast it with other similar weapons, I would say that VIPER is worse than both minigun and overdriver, though definitively better than carbine. So like if you're using carbine, then just please stop. I would also say that VIPER is better than Chain Gun. To compare it to other like tier 4 and 5 weapons, which is what a lot of people are going to ask because those are the two that cost credits, the 6 and the 8. VIPER it's okay. right? It's not bad, but it's not as good as most other legendary things, I would say. Better than Repeater, better than Particle Beam, better than Chain Gun, as I said. Though I would say worse than Pod Gun, definitely worse than Storm Rack, worse than Revoker, whatever, and so on and so forth. If you ever do have questions in terms of like which one is better, you can typically get a good idea just by watching people's videos and not by watching guides per se. Like, you don't need me to come in here and tell you this is better than this but worse than this. You can just watch videos from someone who plays a lot of like late game matches, someone like Platinum, right? So he plays a lot of late game stuff, and even when he's messing around, he's not gonna mess around that much. He's never gonna use something like Particle Beam, he just doesn't. You'll see him use Revokers a lot, Stormracks a lot. The things that you see people using a lot of, those are typically the things that do really well, and the things that you never seen them use, it's probably because it sucks. But anyway, yeah, that's gonna be it for me. You can let me know what you think about either of these weapons in the comments, though I would personally go with Viper out of the two. And yeah, appreciate y'all. Take care.